Hi, my name is Gerhard Schweiner and welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the pleasure of continuing our conversation with Ryan Kubacki. He is going to share with us on how to develop a better competitive strategy.
So the first recognition is that you need a business plan, because a lot of people have a misconception that competitive selling means selling harder, which means more activity. It's not. It's selling smarter. So the way you do that is to have an insightful plan with 6 steps. The first is really understand your sales objective and mission. Sounds obvious, but when you're in a competitive situation, if you don't know what victory means, if you don't know what you're selling to whom by when, who you're up against, it's impossible to compete. We do thousands of deal coaching sessions for competitive deals at Holden International, and I can't tell you how many people don't really understand what they're truly selling. So the first is deeply understand your mission. Second,
for example, give me an example of where people don't understand what they're truly selling.
It may be a new kind of offering, and they haven't really scoped it appropriately. They don't understand.
Right.
So we're trying to get a large enterprise contract. Okay,
right.
Well, I get that.
Right.
But what are you actually selling? Like, what would they actually buy for you? How much would it cost?
Right.
When are you trying to close? What is your mission?
And what is the value to the customer?
Well, that's for sure.
Right.
But before you even show your value, you better actually understand what it is you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
Right.
Number 3.
Yeah. Well, number 2 is assess the competition at the deal. Mm-hmm. Again, most people talk about strategy at the headquarter product level. They have all sorts of PowerPoint slides that tell them how their product ranks against their competitors in theory. Mm-hmm. All that needs to be understood, but all that really matters is at this particular customer. How does the customer perceive the competitor's strengths and weaknesses, and how do they perceive your strengths and weaknesses?
Right.
Where do you need to be attacking? Where do you need to be defending? Right.
Mm-hmm.
3 then is gaining the right political support at that account. So the business value needs to be differential from the competition, step 2, but then it needs to be recognized by the right people, which is step 3. Who has influence? Who is the power base? Do they understand your value proposition? Is it relevant to them compared to the competitor's value proposition?
So you want to develop a matrix and put all the names of the 8 influencers in
Absolutely.
there and then see how they feel about the competition versus how they feel about your product.
You want to measure level of influence they have in their organization, and then level of support they have for your competitor and for you.
Correct.
And if you're up against a couple different competitors, you need to do it a couple different times, because that leads you to step 4, which is now actually formulating a strategy. Simply put, what are you counting on to win? Do you have enough value and support you can just go very direct and close very quickly? Is the customer ready, willing, and able? Unfortunately, that's usually not the case. It isn't if you're a large incumbent oftentimes and so forth. Is there some situation where your products are coming to market, you need to buy yourself time and contain them? Do you need to go after a piece of the business, have a longer term plan to get more of the business? Or step 5 is the master of all competitive sales strategies, and that's how do you go indirect? How do you think like a fox? Foxes are animals in the wild that are very indirect. Not in a, unfortunately they have a little bit of a cunning connotation, but they outfox people. When faced with larger animals, they don't go after them directly, they outfox them. They do things indirectly to trick them and so forth and win the battle before it's fought. No different in competitive selling. Indirect strategy means how do you change the customer's buying criteria in a way that is an advantage to your company while disadvantaging your company. If you're way underpriced, how do you change the ship? Or if you're more costly than your competitor, how do you change the criteria away from cost to service, for example?
Right.
You need to do that with influential people. And then step 6 is managing vulnerability. How do you increase competitive vulnerability and decrease yours? And how do you really think through counter strategy and setting things like competitive traps? Again, this is advanced selling for advanced sellers.
So what you're saying is you have 6 steps that constitute a process that enhances your chances for winning. By how much?
Well, we've looked over the last 30 years. Hundreds and thousands of examples, and we've seen 10 to 15% increase in win rate.
And you are obviously teaching that in workshops or in seminars, or are you doing one-on-one coaching?
We do a lot of different forms. At Holden International, our niche is really competitive sales strategy, and in particular, pursuit of live deals.
Right.
So we either do in-person workshops, but it's all deal focused. So they'll bring in their deal. There could be 2 or 3 deals at a time, but we'll work through them. But we also, for very large, we worked on one that's over $1 billion. How often do you get to work on that, right? That was a situation, several of our team was down there for 2 weeks with that account team, really developing these right plans and watching the execution, and then following up, usually on the phone or on the web. So there's several checkpoints through the life cycle of the deal.
Well, thank you, Ryan. That was fascinating. We continue our conversation with Ryan Kubacki tomorrow, where we talk about how to implement those strategies and teach your team to win in a competitive situation.